Hello, good vach everyone. Welcome. Motzei Shabbos. Pashas Boy. Interesting. I heard a nice insight about it. Says Hashem says to Moshe, Boil Paroi, come to Paroi. And supposedly the language is awkward because it should have said, go to Paroi. It says come to Paroi. So one of the nice Pirushim on that says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not send Moshe to Paran, but he invited Moshe to join him in going to Paran. It says, come to Paran means me and you are going to Paran, which is a nice thought about this, wherever it is you are, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with you. It says that talked about the skula of the Burim about the Baal Shem Kodesh, the very same way that it is it's a skula to mention the name of Eliyahu Novi in Motzei Shabbos. It is skula to mention the name of Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov ben Sara, since they both got their Torah from Achia Shalini. Once the Baal Shem Tov cried, and then he was happy. So his Talmidim asked him, "What is this?" So he said, I sat down and I observed that me and Eliyahu Novi learned together by Achia Shalini from the same teacher. When they say the name of Eliyahu Novi, it says Zachol Latov, that he's remembered for good. And when they mention my name, Motzei Shabbos, they're going to tell him Maisa. So he says, that's why I cried and I begged the Kodesh Baruch Hu that if a Jewish man will say a story from me, Baruchness, he'll have a Yeshua. And so I heard a cruise, an announcement that comes from the Shemaim. It says, anybody who will believe in me, in Rabbi Yisrael ben Sarah, that what will he believe? That everything that he did, all his avodah, was for the sake of Klal Yisrael, B'klal v'befrat, and will speak of him in the beginning of the coming week. You'll have a good week. Speak about me in the beginning of the month. You'll have a good month. And if you'll speak of me in the beginning of the year, you'll have a good year. And I became very, very happy because even though I'm going to be in the next world, Am Yisrael will be happy and excited with speaking of me. That's why I cried and then I was very happy. And it says that the Rav HaKodesh, Rav Avram from Pincho, used to know 365 stories of the Baal Shem Tov, and used to say one Maisa every day. Till the end of the year, he said all the Maisas, and then he will start over again. So here we have a shtickle makor for why we are reading the Sefer from the Maisas of Baal Shem HaKodesh, and when we finished it, we started it again. Hashem schusat again aleinu should all be benched for the gewaldige week. Begashmis and beruchnis. All right, and on we go. Now we're going to tell another story. From Kapei Aaron. This is a tzaddik that was in Yerushalayim, and in the Akdama he says he tells a Maisa Niflo that happened to him, that a rescue that he had from Rabbeinu Rashash after Rabbeinu Rashash had already passed away. So he said, I'm going to mention the Chasodim of Kodesh Baruch Hu, this very, very tough winter that we went over. And he says that is in Chodesh Teves, he said he became very ill, and he was really seriously ill until Pesach. And he says on Tu B'Shvat, he says his illness was so heavy. He says he was very close to expiring, and he said that I remember that the 10th day of Shvat is the day of the Stalkos, of the light of our eyes, our glory, the Ish Elokim Mero, Moreinu Rabbeinu Avsar Sholom Mizrahi Sharabi, which means this month is going to be his Yotzeit. And he has established this holy house that Torah never stops. It's called, in name of Kahal Hasidim, Beis El, and over there he taught the people how to daven Pikavonos Rabbeinu Arizal. And I said to myself, he says, that he was in mortal danger, and he can only lean on the Rachmanos of Kodesh Baruch Hu. And the Lord of the Rashash, he says this is 6 years that he was serving. He was serving for 6 years, the Rashash in Bes Medrash. And he says he was the messenger for the Rashash to Baal Tefillah, B'Shem Kol Yisrael, according to the Siddur and his Kavonas, not the Siddur Rashash and all the Kavonas Ariz that he wrote on them. So he says, and he was also the messenger of all the Rabbanon, all the Hasidim over there in that Chabura. Doesn't remember all their names. He says, he says, and now I'm leaning on the schos of my teacher, Ma'ora Kodesh, Ora Shemesh, which is the Rashash, and I lean on his schos he said because he's in great trouble, doesn't have any other choice except to lean on him. He says, happy is the eye that sees that particular limud, in other words, the teaching of the Rashash. Everything is holy secrets. You can feel the Ashros Ashchina, the schus of the Rav Kodesh that is upon us, and the house will be filled or it will be perfumed like the smell of the field, blessed by Hashem. So I ordered the people of my household to go to the Bes Medrash Bet El, and when all the Chaverim will be there, all the Hilul, and let them all go and beg. I see that the picture is for some reason flickering, but this is what we have. To let them go and beg there and cry to them and ask Rachamim and light candles in the yard site of the Rashash and ask him to beg Rachamim before Kodesh Baruch Hu. His chus, he will save me from dying. That's what he said. And this is what his people of his household, they went there and they cried and they lit candles. And all the friends, all the chaverim over there, became very startled and davened on him with the old nafsham, they did pidyon nefesh. Zat Hashem will repay them with longevity, Nishnos Chaim, to Sarah Kodesh Baruch Hu B'Simcha. And it says, in the people of my household, he writes, he came to the house, and I'm at night, I'm lying like a stone, not knowing anywhere. And he says, Chatzos Halayla, in midnight, a person, I saw a vision of a person, and he looks like an angel of Hashem, and he stood there with a laughing, happy face. I said, who am I looking at? Who is my master? And he said, I am Shalom Mizrahi. Now, there's a Rashash. And that hour, he asked me with a happy face, he says, I heard that you are printing a sefer. So I said, yes, my master, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given me, according to the little mind that I have. I'll be printing a small booklet that I called Kapei Aaron, the hands of Aaron, to mzake myself and small people, like of Milo. So he asked me, why are you signing Aleph Ayin Nun Hey Ene? So he said, because this is a small remez of my name and my family name, and my father, who says Aaron ben Arav Azriel, and so forth. He said, he says, there is another reason why you should call the book Ene. Aaron Azriel, that's the name of the person who is writing this letter. Nisei Hashem, the miracles of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And immediately he went away from me, and I woke up from my sleep, and I sat on my bed, and I was astonished by this great vision. I didn't know what it means. Was it Nisei Hashem? What does it mean? And still, until I relaxed and thought about it, and it says the lashon of the pasuk is Vayikra lo Hashem Nisi, and he called Yaakov Avinu called, the Mizbech Hashem Nisi. Hashem is my miracle, and I also remembered the explanation of Rashi, Alav Shalom. What is Hashem Nisi? Hashem that does a miracle for me. Then I said, I have no doubt that today is a day of a good biting, and the Rashash davened for me. And this chus, the Gzad Din that was on me was mevotel. And Mishamayim, they made me a miracle, and they ransomed me from going down Chas v'Chalila. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hu, slowly, Chemes Hashem, I started stronger, and Baruch Hashem, now I'm healthy. Baruch Hu Berachamav will lengthen our days, B'tov, V'inim, Ne'imim, and will mezaker me to do the Ratzon Hashem, that all our Torahs and Tfilas and all of Masim Tovim will be wanted, will find favor before Hashem Yisbarach, and the Schus Adonenu HaKodesh Isha Elokim Sar Shalom, the Rashash, will protect us all the days. And the Rav HaKodesh Rav Shalom Sharabi passed away in the 10th day of Chodesh Shvat. And that is about 300 years ago, plus minus, in Yerushalayim. And it's, Bez Hashem, very, very soon. It'll be his yortzeit, it's Hashem, in the Shir, right next to his yortzeit. We'll mention it, obviously, light candles, and rejoice in the schos of Rabbeinu Rashash. And now we go back to the story of Rabbeinu Arizal. Today we're talking about where his family is. Everybody, know how, the Sfaradim learn, Baruch Hashem, Kabbalah's Arizal. The Arizal lived in Yerushalayim. His name was Rabbi Yitzchak Reb Shlomo Luria Ashkenazi. So he was not a Sephardi, he was Ashkenazi. What is the story of his family? So this is the story of his family. the father of Rabbi Shlomo, the father of Rabbeinu Arizal, had many rabbis and luminaries that came from that family. And also the name of Luria. What was the name Luria? What you got this? At those days, there were no surnames. People didn't have surnames. Same names came much later. So where did they get this name Luria? The first one that got this surname Luria was Rabbi Shimshon Luria. That was the personal physician to the King of France. That is to show his thanks for healing him. The king gave him as a present a house on the river Loire in France. So this is what he called Luria. Is in the province of Orleans, and that's why the Jewish doctor took upon himself this name Luria, of the river. Now, his grandson, the grandson of this Rabbi Shimshon Luria, was also, his name was also Shimshon Luria. He was Av based in the airport. And he also had the yeshiva, the big Talmidei Chachamim, and they decided to keep their yeshiva over there even after Rabbi Shimshon passed away. And actually, the head of the yeshiva, extremely, unlike, most of the people before, was his wife, his Ras Miriam. She was an unbelievable Talmid Chacham. And this Rebbetzin Miriam, was booking the entire Torah and the Talmud like a great rabbi. So what they used to do is they used to put a screen in the middle of the room, and behind that screen, hidden from everybody, sat the Rebbetzin, the Almona, and gave very profound, deep shiurim in Gemara and in Halacha. This Rebbetzin Miriam, her father was Reb Shlomo Shapira. He was the Av Beis in Kehillah of Heilbronn. He was the grandson of Matisiyahu Trivish, was Av Beis in Paris. And Rabbi Kollel, he was basically the rabbi of all the Jews in France. And he was, his forefather was Rabbeinu Yehuda Bar Nosson, the Rivan, who was one of the son-in-laws of Rashi. All know that Rashi had only daughters, and the Ritva was his son-in-law amongst others, and the other generations of this family, they also carried the name Luria. Bichir Luria was based in Brisk, and his famous grand-grandson is the Marshal, Rabbi Shlomo Luria. Rabbi Shlomo Luria, the Marshal. The Marshal was famous in his books, Chochma Shloimo and the Shas, Yamshm Shloimo. The Marshal was the posek of all the Ashkenazi Jews until the days of the Ramah. And another famous grandson of Rabbi Chil Luria was Rabbi Yosef. It's called Rabbi Yosselman from Rasheim. He was a very famous Asken that was an ambassador of all the Jews in Germany before the authorities in Germany, and he prevented a lot of damages from the Jewish nation of body and money from his people. The name of Rabbi Yosselman is famous of being an Asken, a very dedicated Asken that saved a lot of Jews and left Baruch Hashem was a very choshev yid by himself. Now, as it seems, Rabbi Shlomo, the father of the Arizal, was from the children of Rabbi Luria from Brisk and Lita. We are not exactly sure how the the um, the Shushalat went, but he wasn't the time of Brisk, town of Brisk, Chaim Brisker, and of course was a city of Talmid Chacham and Sefrim. This is where Rabbi Shlomo Luria, learned her and became a very, very holy Jew. And it is where's the source of the name Ashkenazi? Ashkenazi, again, it's a surname in a time that people didn't carry surnames. How did you get that? There were about 600 Jews in Yerushalayim, the Kehillah, when it was overtaken by the Sultan Solomon the Great. And very few of them, were citizens of Yerushalayim for generations. Most of the people came there, most of the Jews came from Spain and from Italy, and some from Ashkenaz, which is France. And the Parnassa was very meager. Everything they lived on, it was tzedakah that people collected in Europe and brought it to Yerushalayim. And the very famous Nagid, Rabbi Yitzchak Sholel, who was a very wealthy Jew from Egypt, and he's the one who collected the money that it was sent to him from Turkey and sent it to Israel. And this is how the yeshuv was that, that Rabbi Klonimus and his students, he was the big rabbi over there. As we said, he was in the bris of Rabbi Arizal when they came to Yerushalayim, and the descendants of the Ashkenazi Kehillah were very happy. Immediately, they anointed their rabbi. Now, the reason Rabbi Klonimus was to come from Brisk to Yerushalayim, he was famous in the entire land of Lithuania. He was tremendous Baki, Benigla, Benister, and he was Av-based Din of Brisk. And he was also Av-based in Kilos Kodesh Ostra, and he was teaching Torah from students that came to him from throughout the land. However, when his daughter married the Marshal, the rabbi of human, basically halacha was like the Marshal until Rabbeinu Ramah was Marshal. He was the Pesach Adon of entire Europe. So when his daughter, Rabbi Klonimus's daughter, married the Marshal, he left his duty as the Rav and gave it to his son-in-law. And he went to Brisk, and this is where many Talmidim came to him, amongst them Rabbi Shlomo Luria, the father of Rabbeinu Arizal. And Shlomo was, Baruch Hashem, learned, he became Odom Gadol, he behaved with Chassidus and Precious, got to tremendous levels. He was Zeicher to Gilul Eliyahu. And he founded Kalman Klonimus Bergstein, Habrichstein, this was his name, was a Rav that resembled Malach Hashem Tzvaka, so he came to him. Now, but the good days were not long, and Taf Reish Peites, when we are in Taf Shin Peites, Taf Shin is 800, and this is like 600 years ago, 500 years ago, they started, all kinds of pogroms, hit the Jews of Lithuania. There were new laws, new taxes, and it was so heavy that 25% of all the income went to the Medina, and was on them, and they were just a few percentage of the entire land. They were supposed to pay for it all, and while they were under this duress, having to pay all these various taxes, there was another problem that came down. In Poland, it decreed a total isser on Christians to leave their to convert to Judaism. And since still there were a few Christians that converted, and they wanted to contact Tachak, they would become Ger and Beseser, usually leaving the country. The the people, the power at be started suspecting that the Lithuanian Jews are giving refuge to those converts, so that ran away from Poland. And the Zygmunt was the Duke of Lithuania. He's not going to let something like this happen. So he decided the people, the nobility of his land started investigating it. The minute they got the permission, they started really bothering the Jews, and many of the Jews, were just, merchants that sold from one place to the other, and the Pitzim would stop him and give him all kinds of fake claims that they hidden, forbidden Christians, in other words, converts, and the only way that the Jew is suspected of this kind of infraction was if he bribed the person who was stopping him. That's the only way that he could, escape. And it's become, more and more. And they would break into households, to the searches, and it doesn't matter whether they found anybody, that didn't find anybody. They had to get the money to be paid to leave, or else the Jews would be, told to the authorities. So the Jews of Lithuania was in a quagmire. One hand, there was tremendous amount of taxes. The other one, there was a pachad, to actually travel. So they closed themselves in their houses. They left a lot of the didn't open their stores. And I apologize for this. I'm not sure what it is that's a problem with Zoom. Anyhow, their financial situation became worse and worse. And when it became, even worse, they decided that many started leaving the country on their own. Then they heard, tremendous news from Yerushalayim. The holy city is being overtaken by the Ottomans, and their king was a Melech Chesed, and he's letting the Jewish community to develop. So this is where Rabbi Klonimus, the older Klonimus, was one of the people who left Lithuania at the time, and he went, even though he was an old man then, he went Lithuania, and he left Lithuania, and he went to Yerushalayim. And when his students heard of his plan, they also went with him. They came to Israel, and Israel was very poor at the time. They had tremendous amount of chachamim over there, but they were very poor. And there were just a few Ashkenazi Jews in Yerushalayim. That's why anybody that became part of that kehillah got the nickname Ashkenazi. So this is how, from that time on, the Rabbeinu Zarizal's father, Rabbi Shlomo Luria, is called Rabbi Shlomo Luria Ashkenazi. Until now is the story of Rabbeinu Arizal. At Hashem, we will continue next week, and let's get to Sichos Haran for this week. And here we go. We are holding Basicha 163. So one person from Zlatipoli, Nosson writes that when Rabbeinu Zichron Livracha was sitting in Zlatipoli, one time Rabbeinu Zichron Livracha davened very early in the morning, and then he sent his daughter, the girl Sarah Tichya. Sarah Tichya, Sarah is a whole story about who she is and what a tzaddikas she was. Rabbeinu said that all his daughters, all his offsprings, have a madrega of Ruach HaKodesh, who was very close to Nevuah, and he says, and of Sarah, he says, I'm not even talking about her. She was way beyond him. And she is buried in Kremenchuk. And it's a big Indian for people who go to Uman to travel to Kremenchuk and go to her kever, because any kind of kever of a tzaddik where very few people know of him, it is very auspicious to get Yeshuas for everything that you need. So he said that when Rabbeinu was in Zlatipol, Rabbeinu davened in the morning, and he sent his daughter Sarah to call him. So he came to Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu told him, "Come, walk with me out of town." And he went out of town amongst on the field, amongst the plants over there. And this is one of the famous things that Rabbeinu said. That went between the plants. Rabbeinu says, if you were zoiche to hear the sound of the songs and praises of the plants, or every single plant is saying a song to Hashem Yisborach, without any pnia, without any foreign thoughts, without any kind of ulterior motives, they don't expect to be repaid. And how beautiful it is that you hear their song, how good it is to be amongst them, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'yira. That's one of the reasons why, when you go to the field to make hisbedus, it's very good to go, to a field outside of town, because the plants are actually giving their koyach into your davening. And when they got close to a mountain that was not close to the city, he asked us, what is it? So he told him what this mountain is. Rabbeinu told him, he says, come with me. And they went over there, and I think it was a cave or something. He says they couldn't see outside at all because this mountain was hollow. In other words, there was probably a cave, and it was a little bit deep. Rabbeinu, it was early in the morning. Rabbeinu took him in there, and Rabbeinu sat over there on the floor. And he took from his pocket, instead of Shar Etzion. Etzion is the famous Tfilos Sefer, and he started to say the Tfilos, and he cried a lot. And he would go from one page to the last, and he cried, and he cried, and he cried, nonstop. And the person who was standing next to him was holding his pipe holder. And he stood there, and he was stunned. Rabbeinu was crying, and he says it took a long time. When Rabbeinu stopped crying, he ordered the men to go look outside, what time of day it is, and he said that it's very close to sunset. That Rabbeinu was actually crying there for an entire day, nonstop. He told them, to light a fire, and Rabbeinu smoked his pipe, and he sat a little bit, and he went outside. And he told him as follows: there's going to be a time where it will be very difficult to come close to me. But right now, I'm mamash in your hands. You and Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, if you want, I can make out of you tzaddikim mamash like me. This is a conversion of very famous sichos that Rabbeinu spoke about davening amongst the plants. And the kind of there was a period of time until mamish the last few years that to come close to Breslov was next to impossible. Breslov Hasidim were persecuted, and Baruch Hashem now, being the B'nai Hashem, it's close to Mashiach time, so now it's become easier. Actually, the gate opened, was thrown wide open after the Lubavitch Rebbe Zatzal Yiracha was mistalik. Then the gates to get into Breslov actually opened wide. I assume, I don't know, but I assume that was, the fruits of the labor of the Lubavitch Rebbe. The union of going out, davening, crying, asking, Rabbeinu said, you have him, cling to him. With the koyach of Rabbeinu, when somebody gets close to Rabbeinu, Rabbeinu can make you a tzaddik mamish like him. What does it mean, a tzaddik like him? We're not exactly sure. There are all kinds of explanations of what it means. But one thing is for sure, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. When you are going, connected to Rabbeinu HaKadosh, after 120 years, you're in good shape. Rat Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu should be mezakeas to rejoice in the 10th day of Shvat, which is in a few days, the Yotzei of Rabbeinu Rasha, and should light a candle, daven with his chos, be tremendous simcha, should have a gewaldige week, gewaldige month. This is a month of renewal, a month of people, getting married and B'ezrat Hashem, all good stuff, B'ezrat Hashem. And B'ezrat Hashem, we will continue on Monday learning Sipurey Baal Shem Tov and so forth and so on. As long as we keep our chabura together, learning, we're in good shape. B'ezrat Hashem should all have a gewaldige week, B'ezrat Hashem.